Krishna, thank you everybody for coming and coming to listen to me. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verse number 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo
Rajastamaha Prakritaya Shama Shila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvash Prajepshava Rajastamaha Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava Rajastamaha Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava. Any problems like to say?
Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava
Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava.
Any Mataji's?
Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava
Rajastama Prakritaya
Samashila Bhajantivai Vitribhuta Pracheshadin
Shriyashvarya Prajepshava Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajantivai
Vitribhuta Pracheshadin Shriyashvarya Prajepshava
Rajastama Prakritaya
Rajastama Prakritaya
Samasila Vajanti Vai
Samasila Vajanti Vai
Bhuta Prajasadin
Pritibhuta Prateshadin
Aishwarya Prajitsava
Shri Aishwarya Prajatsava
Raja,
Raja,
the mode of passion. Tama, the mode of ignorance. Prakritaya, bad mentality. Shama-shila, same categories. Bhajanti, you worship. Right. Actually, Pitri, the forefathers. Bhuta, all the living beings. Rajesha, controllers of cosmic administration. Shriya, enrichment. Aishwarya, wealth and power. Praja, progeny. Ipshava, so desiring. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. If you can say after me, those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. Purport. There is no need to worship demigods of whatsoever category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita 17:20 to 17:23, it is clearly said that those who are mad after material enjoyment approach the different demigods for temporary benefits, which are meant to land to the full point of knowledge. We should never desire to increase the depth of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment should be accepted only up to the point of the bare necessities of life, and not more or less than that. To accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. More wealth, more women, and false aristocracy are some of the demands of a materially disposed man, because he has no information of the benefit derived from Vishnu worship. By Vishnu worship, one can derive benefit in this life as well as in life after death. Forgetting these principles, foolish people who are after more wealth, more wives, and more children worship various demigods. The aim of life is to end the miseries of life and not to increase them. For material enjoyment, there is no need to approach the demigods. The demigods are but servants of the Lord. As such, they are duty-bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, air, etc. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, and that should be the motive of life. One should be careful to execute occupational service with faith in God in the proper way, and that will lead one gradually on the progressive march back to Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, when he was personally present at Vrajendra, stopped the worship of the demigod Indra and advised the residents of Vraj to worship by the business and to have faith in God. Worshipping the multi-demigods for material gain is practically a perversity of religion. This sort of religious activity has been condemned in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam as Kaitava Dharma. There is only one religion in the world to be followed by one and all, and that is the Bhagavad Dharma, or the religion which teaches one to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one else. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vasya Deshacharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Those who are in modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities, for they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. So we need to know that there are three modes of material nature. Can anyone tell me the three modes of material nature? Okay, Vrajendra.
Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance.
Goodness, passion, and ignorance. In Bhagavad Gita 14.5 to 14.8, it is said that the living entity comes, when the living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. The mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode develop knowledge, and they become conditioned by the concept of happiness. So people in the goodness is more like knowledge. Do good, be good. They acquire this knowledge where they want to be a better person. They don't want to harm people. They want to do good actions. This is like the mode of goodness. And this mode is purer than the mode of passion, and is purer than the mode of ignorance. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, and it binds one to material fruitive activities. So the mode of passion, it's basically just like go, 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 I need more money, work harder, put more effort in it. This is passionate. We see it every day. 7 o'clock in the morning, people are dashing to work. They're just like honking the cars and, it's really passionate. The mode of ignorance causes the delusion of all living entities. The result of this mode is madness, indolence, and sleep, and it binds the conditioned soul. The mode of ignorance is just getting intoxicated, procrastinating things, saying, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow, later. I've got the whole day. I'll be trying my rounds later, like that. So, all the living beings, as soon as they get in touch with the material world, they get influenced by these modes. And it's a bit like the material world is like the sea, right? And all the living entities are floating on the waves, right? And these waves, sometimes they are at the bottom, in the mode of ignorance. And then, waves, it goes up and down, up and down. So it's like down is the mode of ignorance, and then they gradually rise to the mode of passion. And when they hit the crest of a wave, then they are in the mode of goodness. And that's the process. They go up and down, up and down. So at different times of the day, you might meet up the same person, and he's in different moods. Sometimes he's angry, sometimes he's in a pretty nice mood, he's smiling, he's your best friend. And at other times, he could just be in the mode of ignorance, and a fight just happens, and okay, I'm not your friend anymore. Has anyone had this experience before?
Many bad experiences in the material world.
Hey, it happens every day. Even when we go out on books, it happened to me in Chaitanya. Like we meet somebody, we try to stop him, and he's just like, oh, just leave me alone. And he walks away. That was about maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we see the same guy. He's coming back at 4 o'clock in the evening, and we stop him again. And this time he's in a good mood. So he stops, he talks, and he takes a book. So we can see how people are generally affected by these three modes of nature. A pure devotee, however, is situated in the mode. What mode is a pure devotee situated in?
Last one, pure goodness.
Pure goodness. So pure goodness is above goodness. So all these living entities, they're like riding these waves in the material ocean, right? But a devotee is actually on the boat. So we still feel a little bit like a few shocks coming from these modes of nature, but we are on the spiritual platform. So that's like being on a boat, floating on the sea, on the material sea. You see? And in the verse, it is said that those in the mode of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and demigods. And why do they do that? They do that to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. So what can we deduct from that? What kind of people worship demigods, forefathers, other living beings? People who are in the modes of passion and ignorance. So basically people who are attached to material things. And what is a demigod? Has everyone heard of the word demigod before? Who can give me an idea of what a demigod is? Okay, that, yeah.
It's like a minister who takes charge of the department.
Oh, that's a nice answer. Yeah. And who's the supreme minister? Krishna is the supreme minister, and he's got, just like in the government, there's like the supreme minister, prime minister, and he's got all these other people working for him, following his orders. When he tells them to do, they have to do it, that's their job. So similarly, Krishna is the supreme controller, and he's got different demigods working under him, and these demigods are responsible for executing many tasks within the material realm. Can anyone think of such demigods?
Indra.
Indra. And what does he do?
Rain.
Oh, he's rain.
He does a lot of work in Newcastle, anyway.
Yeah, actually. In the whole of England, isn't it? So rainy down here. And anyone else?
Lakshmi.
Lakshmi?
Money.
What does Lakshmi do?
For money.
For money. Many people worship Lakshmi. And they want to win the lottery, right? They want the dough. And any other ideas? Brenda, any ideas?
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva. Okay, so why would one worship Lord Shiva?
He's in charge of destroying the matter.
So we worship him because we want to be destroyed.
Is he easily pleased? And he can give you any boon.
Yes.
He gives boon easily, so as soon as you go to him, just he asks Krishna first.
Is he easily pleased?
Very merciful, yeah.
And he grants you a boon. Maybe Chaitanya got an example of that.
Yeah, I'm worshipping all the time. Yeah, he generally, Lord Shiva, he gives material wealth. People worship him for material prosperity. Because he's easily pleased, therefore people, because generally that's what people want in this world.
Can anyone remember the name of the demon? Lord Shiva gave him a boon.
Ravana.
Ravan, the one who wanted to touch his head.
I was just reading that the other day. Oh,
Is that Banasura? Banasura, Bakasura,
Yeah,
Bakasura, yes?
Well,
Bakasura.
Vrajendra. He got a boon from Lord Shiva, but whoever's head he would touch, that head would fall down. So Lord Shiva was like, okay. He was easily pleased. He gave him that boon. And then the demons wanted to touch his head. So he started to run after Lord Shiva. Come here, let me touch your head. And it's a long story, but Lord Shiva had to run. And it's just an example of how Lord Shiva is easily pleased. So then we can see that many people worship demigods. Like there's Surya, the god of the sun, there's Nidra, the god of sleep, Saraswati, goddess of intelligence. So many people worship Saraswati, right? People worship demigods before they go to their exams. You're like, oh, Saraswati Mata, please bless me. So I can pass these exams, right? And yeah, so this is demigods. So a demigod can grant you boons. He's got the power to do that, right? But in the verse, it says that they worship, those who are in the moods of passion and ignorance, worship the forefathers of the living beings and the demigods. So a demigod has the potential to give you a boon, right? But what about forefathers? Why do people worship forefathers? Okay,
I think some people, when their parents die and their forefathers die, they still do prayer, like not to give them liberation, for like ask Krishna to give them liberation. They just pray that so that they protect, they can protect.
But so they're praying for their forefathers, right? But in this verse, it's saying they pray to their forefathers to get material benefits.
Yeah, they think
Like
that
women, wealth, power, and progeny.
the idea is that you can get protection from them.
The idea. Because actually what happens is, sometimes when forefathers are offense, well, this is like karma. It doesn't apply for devotees. Because the devotee is free from that. Krishna takes responsibility. And the devotee is not, he doesn't have to do, he doesn't owe anyone any obligation. As soon as you take shelter of Krishna, you don't owe no one the obligation. That's it. Krishna will handle everything. But people who don't, who are still practicing karma, sometimes they make offenses to their forefathers. And then what happens? The forefathers gives them a curse. And they go to the Pitra Loka. Anyone heard about Pitra Loka? Yes, it's the planet of the ancestors. And when we go there waiting to take birth again. Right? And we don't know, only Krishna knows how long they've got to wait. But that curse, sometimes people get cursed and they can't get children, they can't get progeny because of the curse of their forefathers. And this is why these people, they go and they worship their forefathers for material benefits. Like they want to get children, so they've satisfied. How do they do that? They do like karma yagyas. And then they satisfy their forefathers, and the forefather removes the curse, then they can have children, or they can overcome the obstacles that are in the path. So that's about the forefathers. And what about other living entities? How can you worship another living entity and benefit from it? What other living entities is this verse talking about? Say for example, there's Donald Trump. He's like a living entity. Do you think if you go and worship do you think if you go and worship Donald Trump, you take some incense and some flowers, will you benefit from that? He's a living entity.
Well, they're going to get you a job or something. Like some limited way.
In some limited way, but it doesn't click. So what does it mean by living entities, other living entities? In this verse, it doesn't mean Donald Trump. It actually means bhutas, ghosts. So many people, they worship ghosts. There are many new age movements coming up, and people are like taking the crystal balls, and they're acting like mediums. They're telling people, come and give me so much money, and I'll make you get in touch with your deceased grandmother. I'll make you talk. Your father just passed away. I can make you talk to his soul. Like that. And these people, what do they want? They want control over other people's minds. This is the power. They're in search of power. So that's why they worship bhutas. They worship ghosts. You see? And in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 25, an excerpt from the purport says that similarly, one can attain the Pitta planets by performing a specific yagya. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pishaka. Pishaka worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. So if we go to India, we see all kinds of things. People do all kinds of tantric, some of them they use blood. Even in Mexico it happens. People are worshipping all kinds of Buddhas, all kinds of ghosts, all kinds of things, They do like blood sacrifice, and it is condemned in Bhagavad Gita. These are all material activities. It's not spiritual, you see. But Krishna is all merciful. He's so merciful that, what does he say in the Gita?
Sorry.
Better tell them.
What does he say in the Bhagavad Gita? Chapter 7, verse 21. He says, I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady, so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So this is Krishna. If you have a desire, Krishna will satisfy our desire. He's so merciful. And if someone desires to worship some demigod, then Krishna makes his faith steady, so he can devote himself to worshiping a demigod. Krishna allows it. He says, if you want that, go ahead. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment, and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord and Super Soul in everyone's heart understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. And this is what happens in terms of demigods. And what else does Krishna say about demigods? 9.25. He says, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. So just like Chaitanya was saying yesterday, whatever we think at the time of death, this is where we go, and this is the type of body we get. And this is why we're training in Krishna consciousness. Because at the time of death, we want to think about Krishna. We want to think about Goloka. We want to think about the spiritual realm, because that's where we want to go. You don't want to think about, ghosts. Or Newcastle. You see? And in the verse it said, there is no need to worship demigods of whatsoever category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. It also says that those who are after material, who are mad, it uses the word mad, those who are mad after material enjoyment approach the different demigods for temporary benefits, which are meant for men with a poor fund of knowledge. So what can we get from this verse? Those who are mad after material enjoyment, these people approach the demigods for temporary benefits. And this is meant for men with a poor fund of knowledge. Men who are mad. That was the verse. 1.2.27. So it is said that men who are mad after sense enjoyment worship demigods. Why? Why is it that someone who worships demigods is mad after sense enjoyment? Just for material benefits?
Or temporary. He doesn't know.
He wants something temporary?
No, he doesn't know it's temporary.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he will be disappointed at some point.
Yeah.
Later on.
Yeah, exactly. And
It's temporary.
because when you think of yes,
No, sorry, he doesn't know that actually everything's coming from Krishna.
Exactly.
Whatever is bestowed by the demigods is sanctioned by Krishna.
Krishna gives the order. But then when you think about it, oh, yes,
I was just thinking, it's almost a bit of a play on words when it says they're mad after material prosperity, because actually you're mad if that is your goal.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They don't realise that, but then you are mad because the result is that you take birth again in the material world
Exactly.
and you have to suffer. And if they just applied that same worship to Krishna, that same amount of worship applied to Krishna would take them out of the material world. So they're mad after sense gratification, and therefore they're mad.
And they are mad because they think that's the proper thing to do. You know? Because when you think about it, how many demigods are there? There are millions of demigods, right? And someone who worships demigods, can you please all the demigods? Can you worship like a million demigods properly, like they should be worshipped? They can't do that. They can't worship them all. So the question is, why do you worship this particular demigod and you don't worship the other one?
He only wants one of those benefits.
Because they are after benefits. So I will worship this particular demigod because I can get that specific thing from him. You know, so I want money, I'm going to worship Lakshmi Devi. Yes, Chaitanya.
I was thinking it's kind of like a business deal. They're not worshipping them really to please them, it's more you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So if I please you, you have to give me this.
Yeah.
But when we worship Krishna, we don't want anything from him, we're just trying to please him.
Yeah.
So it's just like a business transaction.
It is. And you make me remember, it's also said like Krishna, he's not like the delivery boy. When we worship Krishna, we can't go up to him with a shopping list. You know? And it's like you go to the supermarket and you say, hey boy, can you get me all those items here for the shopping list? Can you bring them for me, please? Some people go up to Krishna like that. You know, they've got a list of material things that they want. And they say, hey Krishna, give me this, give me that, give me that. And then maybe I give you a pound. I put a pound into the Krishna box. You know, like that. But this is not proper because worship to Krishna should be selfless. We do worship not to please ourselves, but for Krishna's pleasure. You see? And then it's also said that the people who do that, like demigod worshippers or people who are after material things, you know, who have contaminated faith basically, it is said they have a poor fund of knowledge. And how do they lack knowledge? You've hit on that point again.
How do we lack knowledge?
Yeah, how do they lack knowledge? You said it before. You just said it, you know.
Yeah, they're after material benedictions, and therefore it means they're covered by the mode of ignorance. So the opposite of knowledge is ignorance.
So instead of worshipping Krishna, where they can get everything simultaneously, they are worshipping individual demigods. So that's like, just like there's Tulsi Devi over there, like imagine a plant. You know, it's like watering the stem and the leaves and the branches of a plant, when we should actually be watering the roots. You see, by watering the roots, automatically all the parts of that tree are satisfied. We don't have to water every single leaf. A tree has got 1 million leaves. You can't go and water every leaf. You just water the roots. So similarly, who's the root? Krishna. Krishna is the root. And all these leaves, all these branches, they're all like demigods. So automatically, if we worship Krishna, all these demigods are pleased. We please them all. Demigods, forefathers, Buddha, whatever. We don't owe them no obligation when we worship Krishna. But people with poor fund of knowledge, they don't know it. You see? And again, in the purport of the same verse, the 1.2.27, Srimad Bhagavatam, it confirms it. It says, the demigods are but servants of the Lord. As such, they are duty bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, air, etc. So it's their job. You know? It's just their job. All we need is Krishna. All we need is Krishna. And how can we confirm this? In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 22, what does Krishna say? He says, endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod. and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these desires are bestowed by me alone. So even by worshipping the demigods, whatever things, whatever benefits they get, it's being bestowed by Krishna. That's said in 722. In verse 730, what does Krishna say? He says, those who are in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So, if you want to back here. Yeah, so here again he says, like he's the governing principle of the material manifestation, and he governs all the demigods and all these methods of sacrifice. He sanctions them. In 923, Krishna says, those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. So here again Krishna says he's everything. Krishna is everything. Everything is part and parcel of Krishna. Even the demigods are parts and parcels of Krishna. We are parts and parcels of Krishna. You know, Krishna's got his spiritual energy, he's got his material energy. You see, the soul, the jiva, spiritual energy, the body is material energy. So in that same way, whatever God we're worshipping, whatever demigod, whatever thing we're putting our faith in, you know, Krishna says we are actually worshipping him, but they are doing it in the wrong way. See? And can anyone tell me, this is one big story, how Krishna condemns the worship of demigods, how he shows people that, okay, you don't need to worship demigods. I've got several hands out there. Govardhan Hill, yes, the Leela of Govardhan Hill. Would anyone like to talk about this Leela? Oh, maybe check it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the residents of Vrindavan, because they were agriculturalists, they were dependent upon the rain for their crops to grow, and the grass to grow so they could feed their cows. So therefore it was a cultural festival. They would worship Indra every year, the demigod who supplies the rain. So when all the residents of Vrindavan were getting everything ready to worship Indra, Krishna, he was just a young boy, 5, 6, 7 years old, I think, at that time. And he said, why are you doing this? He said, you don't need to worship Indra. We should just worship Govardhan Hill. This hill is providing grass to feed all our cows. He's supplying minerals and everything we need. Don't worship Indra, just worship Govardhan Hill. So they used all their paraphernalia to worship Govardhan Hill. But what happened was Indra became really angry. And actually, one of the reasons Krishna did this was to defeat Indra's pride. Indra had become a bit proud. So he became really angry, and so he sent forth the most devastating rain clouds.
What's the name?
The Samvata. And it was raining like sheets of ice, literally in columns of ice, and hailstone and severe winds. It was the clouds that they sent at the time of universal devastation. So Krishna picked up the hill, which is 8 miles long, and he picked it up on his little finger of his left hand, and he held it there for 7 days and 7 nights. So he sheltered, it was like a large umbrella sheltering them from all the rain and ice and winds. And then eventually Indra realised that he'd been defeated, so he then came down and he surrendered to Krishna. And by this, Krishna was showing that you don't need to worship the demigods, you only need to worship me. Because he also showed that Krishna, he said that I am this Govardhan Hill. Krishna assumed the form of Govardhan Hill. So just by worshipping Krishna, everything was satisfied.
Everything is satisfied. Yes, and I'm going to close on that by reading a nice verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 5, verse 41. But it says, O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. So, when we have Krishna, we have everything. If we don't have Krishna, we have nothing. If we have Krishna, there's no need for demigods, there's no need for great sages, relatives, friends, mankind, forefathers. Krishna handles everything. So this is why every day we should be, what should we be chanting?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So if anyone has got any reflections, anything they'd like to add, or any questions? Yes, Mataji?
I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but as far as I know that, it was said that the demigods are not worshipped. They should not be worshipped, only we need to worship Krishna.
Yeah.
But what I know, because we have lots of gods and we are brought up like that, we need to worship each and every god, not only Krishna. Because for example, if you think about the Rama, who is created by Krishna, he's one of the, Krishna is coming as a Rama to tell the people that how to behave with their father and how we need to take care of our wife and what's the relationship between a wife and husband should be actually, So Krishna is, Rama is nothing but he's also like Krishna. He's avatar of a Krishna. So if you go to Balaji or Balaji, he's a Revelation Swami and he's also Krishna avatar. So Krishna has created all these demigods to make sure that how to behave with people, how the relationship should exist actually. So what is the bond between a wife and a husband and how we need to give respect to parents. So if Krishna has created all these demigods, so why should not we give respect to them? I'm not really,
Okay, well the first thing is it's like a plant. When you water the roots, automatically you're showing respect to all the demigods. Automatically you're pleased. So if you worship Krishna, automatically you're pleased. And the second thing is that there are different paths. The Vedas is really big. All the scriptures are different paths. There's Bhakti, what we do is called Bhakti Yoga. That's the topmost yoga system. There's Karma Yoga, there's Jnana Yoga. There's so many types of yoga. And there's so many types of Karma Kanda. There's so many types of worship of demigods, there's so many types of yajnas. Even if you read the Garuda Puran, there's so many things you need to do when someone passes away. You need to give him offerings of food so that he can get a body on the way to, Pitraloka. So they do it in weeks or in days, is it? So all these things are to be followed. But nowadays, you can't really follow all that. No one is doing it like it should be done. You see? And it is said that all these things in the Vedas, they are actually a means of purification. So even Karma Kanda, why do people have to do that? Because it's a means of purification. In the Vedas, there are instructions for people who eat meat, what they should do. Because these people, they cannot become vegetarian. So then it gives them an alternative. So we can worship a particular demigod to become purified. But what's the end purpose? The final goal? Everything you do, all this karma kanda, why do you do it? So that you can get on the path of bhakti yoga. This is the purpose. So instead of doing all this purification, we already have the path of bhakti yoga. This has been explained in Bhagavad Gita. And it's really simple. All we need to do is chant the holy name of the Lord. Because Krishna and his holy name are not different. You see, and by chanting the holy name of the Lord, it's a purification process. And the end and the means are the same. You See? Like chanting is the means to purify ourselves, and the goal is to chant again, is to chant more. So I don't know if this answers your question, because basically this is you already have it. You already have it. Say you've got a bank full of money. Why would you go and ask for charity on the street when you have a bank full of money? And this is what it is, you know. You have Bhakti Yoga. Why do you want to go and practice Karma Kanda? You have the greatest one. Okay,
So, if we carry on, I just had a couple of things to add to it, but carry on.
Yeah, well, do go ahead.
No, that was a nice answer, thank you. I just wanted to address a couple of things that you said, Matthew. One of the things you were saying that if we, you mentioned Lord Rama, and I think you mentioned, was it Venkateshwara you mentioned? So there's a distinction between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. So Lord Ram, or Matsya Avatar, or Kurma Avatar, these are all Vishnu Tattva, so they are Krishna. So if you're worshipping Ram, then you are worshipping Krishna. But then there's a distinction between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. So Krishna is always Krishna. That's not his position, that he gets elected. But the demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Vayu, Indra, those are positions that a living entity can attain if they're very pious. Like you can become the Prime Minister, or you can become... So there is a distinction between worshipping Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. So they are very elevated personalities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Indra, Vayu. It's not that we don't respect them. It's an offence if you disrespect them. But there's a difference between respecting and worshipping. So therefore, you can worship the demigods, but I pulled up this verse here. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, this is chapter 7, text 23. So Krishna says, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So he's not saying you can't worship them, but he's saying you're less intelligent if you worship the demigods, because the result is that you get a material benediction, which will run out at some point anyway. So you may go to the planets of the demigods, but ultimately we understand that even if you go to the planets of the demigods, eventually you'll have to come back to the earth again when your karma runs out. But when you go back to the spiritual world, then you never take birth again in the material world. Punarjanma navidyate, Krishna says. So therefore, when you worship Krishna, you get a different result. And the result is that you never take birth again in this material world. And like Vashil said, it's like if you worship the water, the root of the tree, the whole tree becomes nourished. So I just want to say that it's not that we disrespect the demigods, but we just don't worship them. Because automatically, by worshipping Krishna, it's considered that you worship all of the demigods by that very worship. Does that answer it a little bit more as well?
It reminds me of another thing as well. Like even demigods, all the way up to Lord Brahma. That's the material realm, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All the way up to Lord Brahma. So basically there's birth, there's death. We have to go higher than that. And even the demigods, they pray that they can take birth here in the movement of Lord Chaitanya. They pray that they can take birth to participate in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And why? Because it's so easy. All we need to do is chant mantra. In Treta Yuga we used, like before in the other Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, the processes to attain Krishna was so difficult. Just imagine yourself, like if like demigods, they live, I don't know how many millions of years, probably thousands of years. You have to sit down and meditate for 1,000 years. They used to do that, huh? How hard is it? I can't sit and meditate for 20 minutes. If I sit still, it's like my back starts to twitch, And they have to do this kind of penance, of sacrifice. You see them standing on one leg, all these kinds of things. So it's very difficult. And even if we worship demigods, and we manage to reach these planets, it's even more difficult to go back to Krishna. You know, and here we are blessed because Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they made things so easy for us. They broke open the store of love of Godhead, and they took out that love and they were distributing it freely to everybody through the holy name. This is how easy they made it in Kali Yuga. So we might say it is Kali Yuga, but actually the process is way easier than the other yugas. Yes.
I was just thinking, in this verse it's mentioned that those who worship Buddha or Prita or whatever. So I was thinking, what happened about somebody like a so-called devotee, like they believe in Krishna, but still they will go to tantric thing just to know the path, what do I choose? And when they come to Krishna with the mind of asking things, they worship just to ask. So what Krishna think about this type of devotees?
Well, there's four kinds of people who come to Krishna. Right? Some people want wealth, some people want intelligence, some people have material desires, and things like that. They have different reasons for coming to Krishna. But if they don't purify these material desires within the process of worshipping Krishna, then sooner or later they will go. They will leave because they get frustrated. Or either their material desires get fulfilled and they're like, oh, thank you Krishna, they just drop a pound in the donation box and that's it. They're like, thank you very much Krishna, you gave me what I needed, okay, now I'm going. That's one kind of people. And the second kind of people, he comes and he is like worshipping Krishna, Krishna please, 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 and he doesn't get anything. And then he says, okay, I didn't get what I needed, so this is all fake. God doesn't exist, I'm going. So unless they purify their motivation, then they will always go here and there, like you said. They will come to Krishna and then nothing happens. They will go to the tantric, they will go to see demigods, they will go here and there, but eventually they will just like, it's just going around. It's like a dog trying to bite its own tail. You know, they're just like going in circles. Yes, Krishna.
On that point, Krishna is so merciful, even if people are coming with ulterior motives, Krishna is very merciful, and the people that end up, once you surrender to Krishna, you can't, go back. So even if they're coming with a mind frame of, oh, I'm coming, Krishna, I need this from you and I'm going to drop a pound, but Krishna, he works in very mysterious ways, and there's people that become devotees. And there was a very nice story that Janananda Maharaj quoted a few years ago. He said there was a big Jagannath temple. Jagannath is Lord Krishna in a very ecstatic mood. So this temple was in the middle of a forest, and what was happening was the priest who used to go there, he used to go and do the worship every day, and then one day he couldn't go because there was a huge stone. But in that similar place, it's in the middle of nowhere in the jungle, there was one guy who used to come and throw a stone at Jagannath every day. He wouldn't miss, one day. He would just go, chuck a stone at Jagannath, and then walk out. And the day that there was a huge stone, the priest couldn't go to do the worship, but that guy went with his stone, threw it at Jagannath, walked out. And then Jagannath said, he's my best devotee, because even if there was a stone, he still came, threw his stone at me, he came to see me, and then he walked out. So Krishna is very merciful. So he's always looking for every single worship that a person's paid to Krishna. He never forgets. We might forget, but Krishna never forgets.
So even Agatha Sukriti, unknowing devotional service, he's so merciful that even if unknowingly, like during a Harinam, you wave at somebody and that someone just goes like that. He gets, Agatha Sukriti gets pious credit. Krishna is so pleased that he gives him. Yes.
Sorry for just carry on. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's unknowing devotional service. So Krishna is giving him blessings even if he's doing something unknowingly. He had no intentions of coming to please Krishna or doing something for Krishna, but he did it unknowingly and Krishna is still pleased. Like that. He's so merciful. And yes.
So I was just thinking going back to the lines of worshipping the demigods. It's a bona fide system to worship the demigods, and the Vedas, like you were explaining, are so big that they're there to gradually elevate people. So, just by worshipping a particular demigod and then following that system, one develops faith in the Vedas. But as one becomes more elevated, it's said that there's 18 different Puranas. 6 of them are in the mode of ignorance, 6 are in the mode of passion, and then 6 are in the mode of goodness. So by gradually worshipping, when one becomes elevated through the mode of ignorance, passion and goodness, and therefore the final goal is then to worship Krishna. But then Prabhupada, he would say that, if it takes many births to come to this level of worshipping Krishna, and we've got this knowledge now, then he said that, why not worship Krishna now, So I just wanted to clarify that bit as well. It is a bona fide system because, like for yourself, you've grown up in a situation where you've been worshipping all the different demigods. Like for myself, having grown up in England, I didn't know anything about the demigods until, I came to Krishna consciousness. So for me, it's not so hard to say, well, why should we worship the demigods? But for someone like yourself who's coming from that background, and we also have other people in here that are coming from that background. I think Vrinda and Ramai, they've been brought up in a Hindu tradition where they worship the demigods. So it's not that it is a... The point is that it's meant to gradually elevate one to the point of finally realising that... I think Vishal kind of gave the analogy, but it's like if you want $1 million, if someone's got £1 million, if you approach Bill Gates, he can give you the whole world. He's so wealthy. You don't just ask him for hey, can you give us a tenner? Give us $10. He can give you much more. So if we just approach the demigods and we just ask for, we worship Surya Dev for good health. We worship Saraswati to be learned. We worship Shiva for material benedictions. But actually, Krishna can give you all that and more. So that's the idea with worshipping Krishna.
Actually, to add on this, because we normally worship to Saraswati, for example, Lakshmi, not for getting some money or something like that. But the thing is that if you want to live in this particular materialistic world, you need to survive eating food. So for that you need money, right? So God is giving the money. So if something, for example, if a pound coin fall down, we just take that coin and we do like this. That means that we are just worshipping like a god to a coin, because it is giving a food to you. So the same thing. Getting an education is also again a very good thing. So we are learning a lot. So we just want to thank Saraswati that and we don't keep the book down.
Yes.
Like we
same as we have the books down.
So that was, what we feel is like we don't pray to Lakshmi for getting money. We just want to say thank you for giving the money. That makes us fool, and we're just surviving in this society. So that is our intention of worshipping Lakshmi or Ganesh for getting the education. So that means that thank you so much that you have given the education to me, and I always, that is the way we normally. But some people, whoever want a lot of money and they go to, please, that is not a good thing. But what I mean to say is like, demigods are also nothing but they are created by Krishna.
Yes.
So, and we are not that pure to go and talk to Krishna, because we have all the kind of things in our mind. So we are not really pure to go and directly talk to Krishna. So we can talk to the demigods so that they are very pure in a form when compared to our normal human beings. So they can convey other things,
No, it's I understand. It's very nice, and that is the fact that we do want to thank them. For instance, Lakshmi, though, she's the wife of Lord Narayan. So if you worship Lord Narayan, if you worship Krishna, she's the most pleased with that. It's like, for instance, if my spiritual master's here and someone's offering me some worship, I would say, no, actually the worship should go to my spiritual master. So she's actually more pleased if you serve and worship her husband. And it's a fact that we're not pure, but actually that's why we approach Krishna, because he's the supreme pure, he's Param Dharma. He's the supreme pure. So when we approach Krishna, we become purified. So it's not that we can't approach Krishna. Actually, Krishna says you should approach me. And in this age, he's made approach to him very easy by chanting his holy names. So it's a fact. But yeah, we can approach Krishna. We can approach, and particularly we approach him through the spiritual master and through the chain of disciplic succession. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:34. Tad vidi pranipatena. He said, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. So we go through Guru, like that, you see. That's the idea. But anyway, just to make that point, that some of us we may not be worshipping because we want some benedictions. It's just to offer respect and to say thank you. But by worshipping Krishna, automatically you say thank you. And the demigods, they're actually more pleased if you worship Krishna. Lord Ram, for instance, he's always chanting the names, Lord Shiva's always chanting the names of Lord Ram. So he's showing us that actually the best thing to do is worship the Supreme Lord. Don't worship me. That's the idea.
Hanuman also is always worshipping him.
Because if you think about it, if you say thank you say thank you to Lakshmi, you say thank you to Saraswati, and then what about Nidra Devi? She gives you sleep. You need to say thank you to her. Are you married yourself?
Yeah.
So what about Kamadeva? He's the god of love, Cupid. You need to thank him as well. And there's millions of them that you need to thank, and you can't thank them all. So maybe some of them might say, okay, why did you thank him and you don't thank me? You do things for me too. Why are you not thanking me and thanking him? So in this way, when we thank Krishna, automatically we thank all the demigods. You see. So.
I had we had one class and it was a similar subject matter, and then one person asked the question because in the Hindu tradition they've got so many demigods, so it's remnants of Vedic culture, and it's been broken down so people, it's not, some people just do rituals and worship and they don't really know what they're doing, they just do it because it's a tradition. And one person, he was like, but Shiva is Mahadev, so he's God, what are you talking about? And then the answer was to his question, which is quite interesting. Shiva is always meditating. Who is he meditating on? He's meditating on the Supreme Personality of God, who is Krishna. So he's Mahadev, he's like, of all the demigods, he's like the highest of the demigods, and he's always worshipping Krishna himself. So what happens in my personal experience is, I know when I was growing up as a child, my mum used to worship Goddess Durga a lot. She had loads of faith in her, and eventually she had a dream that Goddess Durga was like, it's time for me to worship Krishna, and eventually she became a devotee. So the demigods really ultimately, they are going to be pleased seeing us worship Krishna, because they are already worshipping Krishna themselves. So, and the easiest path really, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna came in the human form as Lord Chaitanya, as the golden avatar, to give us the Maha Mantra. So if Krishna has come personally to tell us, chant and come back to me because I want you back. This is the one path, the highest path is to chant and chant my holy names and come back. Why should we go? I usually give the example, I live in Sunderland. If I'm driving from Newcastle to Sunderland, I take a motorway. I don't go through all the little villages and towns to go to Sunderland. So Krishna has given us the highway, the Maha Mantra. So why do we need to expand? It's true, we need to pay obeisances to the demigods because we're not higher than them, they're great personalities, but they are being pleased by us worshipping Krishna. So why go through the little towns and villages to go to point from A to B, while we can actually just go through the motorway? So we've got the easy path. It's our choice. Krishna is very merciful. He gives us the choice. He gives us the free will of doing whatever we want to. So just by worshipping Krishna properly, by chanting the Maha Mantra, we go back home, back to God, and this is what Krishna wants. Because he wants us back. And by doing that, we're fulfilling, we're pleasing. It's like the tree, we're watering the roots, all the branches and the leaves are getting fulfilled. So all the demigods are getting fulfilled. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it mentions
confirmed.
There is a demigod that's actually lifting your eyelids. There's a demigod there are millions and trillions of demigods doing every single thing. There's a demigod who's in control of the air that's going in your nostrils and going out. How can we please all of them? We can't. It's impossible. the only way to please them is to worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which we are supposed to do. And this is why we've got the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna has personally come to explain what we should do. It's simple living, higher thinking, and that's the way to go back to Godhead.
Maybe you want to have the concluding words now?
Should we move on to the next next part of the program?
Yeah.
Okay. Shri Sankirtanya Ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai. Back to Vishal Prabhu Ki Jai. So I just wanted to thank Vishal for giving a really nice class. I'd like to thank all of you for coming and all of you for your contributions and your attention. It was nice. There's about 19 of us here today, which is the most we've had at the morning programme. Again, I'd like to thank those who have come for the first time, especially Antonella and Lisa, who've been here since 5 o'clock this morning. It's their first time here. And all of you who have come, it's really nice to have you all. And you'll be pleased to know, we were talking about watering the root, or sometimes we say if you feed the stomach, the whole body becomes nourished. So you'll be happy to know it's breakfast time. So we'd like to thank all of you for coming. We'd like to thank everyone who's watching online. And we'd like to thank, big thank you for Dan and Jai Prabhu. He's been downstairs cooking breakfast for a long time. And I imagine, I'm speculating, but he'd made a certain amount, then he saw there was more people here, so he made a bit more. Is that something along those lines? Hope there's enough. So we'll have to have a fight to see who can get to the first one. So let's have a big Hare Krishna for Dan and Jai who's cooking breakfast. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna! Let's have a big Hare Krishna for Vishal's class. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna! Let's have a big Hare Krishna for all of you. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna! Really loud Hare Krishna for Srila